What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here today with some fresh gem rate numbers for the month of January. It's been a grading news, or not news, but just chit chat heavy week so far with the ComC CSG CGC thing, new PSA pricing specials for February, and now we got some gem rate data for the month. Big thing right off the get, PSA cracked 1 million cards again, down slightly. This is the combined total sports and non-sports, but still ended up cracking 1 million. I remember a lot of people were speculating months ago saying once they clear the backlog, they'll never be able to keep churning through 1 million cards a month. So far, does not seem to be the case. I talked about this in yesterday's video. Just to give some clarity on my own order, I have a $15 18 card order. So the $15 special from December, shipped the week of Christmas. It is on its way back to me right now. It is in a FedEx truck, delayed somewhere in between California and Ohio. So hopefully that gets here this weekend or first of next week. That's going to end up running me about 5 weeks round trip, door to door, depending on when the FedEx man actually gets here with my cards. So that's my real-time data. As always, if you're grading with any of these companies, feel free to leave the turnaround times in the comments down below. Obviously, we know SGC super fast. If anyone's done anything with Beckett recently, I'd be very curious on how they are running on turnaround times. And if anyone has anything super crazy with PSA, feel free to share that too. It's just always helpful information to kind of see where everyone's turnaround times are at. CSG/CGC up 20%, the big news makers of the week with the ComC announcement yesterday. SGC up slightly, and then Beckett with a 20% jump, which is kind of surprising. So we'll see how that number looks. Really, what this all boils down to, you see the 5% loss for PSA and then the increases across the board. It really all comes down to one category. We'll get there in a second. Here's sports. PSA stayed flat. SGC and CSG saw small increases, and Beckett saw a 22% jump in those numbers. TCG is where it gets interesting. PSA dropped 12% in TCG, and everyone saw meaningful increases. 28% for CGC, 22% for Beckett, and an 8% increase for SGC. So that's really not a big one when you consider that it's 8% on 5,000 cards. I went back and looked at December's numbers. PSA graded basically 50,000 more TCG cards in December than they did in January. So that's their 12% drop, and that makes up a decent amount of the increases that you see at CGC and Beckett. So, you can't directly correlate that those cards would have gone to PSA if it wasn't for the pricing change. But you could speculate. Obviously, in December, PSA's $15 TCG special ran out. They had it in November, which probably accounted for the big December month in the TCG space. It went away. Their numbers dropped off. And now, what do you know? February 1st, yesterday, here they are announcing a new TCG special at $15. 15 seems to be the magic number when it comes to the Pokemon space. That seems to really swing things for them one way or the other. SGC obviously rolled out their Pokemon special. I reached out to Gemrate specifically on this one. He said it's still a little too soon to say, at least for what's hitting the population report. Peter could tell me something different. SGC could say something different because they're seeing the orders come through the door. We're playing a little bit of lag time there because we have to wait for them to hit the population report, though SGC is still grading pretty quickly. So we'll probably have a lot better feel for how that Pokemon special is going for SGC once we move through the month of February and kind of see what these numbers look like at the end of the month. Looking at percentages by category, TCG still dominates for PSA and Beckett and the CGC/CSG tandem, obviously. Baseball was another big one this month for PSA. Not surprising with all the baseball releases that we have had recently. All the different Topps products coming out. SGC, that was their number one category. And Beckett, it was their second highest, but came in very close to basketball. As we kind of hinted at yesterday in both the PSA video and the CSG/CGC video, it feels like the grading companies are very much in a wait and see mode, kind of letting things shake out, see what demand looks like, and they're kind of poking and prodding around the edges. SGC's been at their current prices now for a few months, and then they're rolling out these little targeted attacks. They had the Bowman thing, then they had the Pokemon thing. CSG just kept their holiday pricing, actually reduced it ever so slightly. CGC has had the same pricing this entire time. They haven't switched anything around. But I do think the ComC partnership is going to drive some business to them. I think it's mostly going to be on the Marvel side, to be honest. At least for me personally, I see way more of a use case for it on the Marvel side. And probably, honestly, and this is something that I thought of when I was watching Carlos's video, on the sports card side, it could make a move in the hockey world. Once again, because of EPAC. I think Upper Deck EPAC has the potential to drive a lot of the business for the CSG/CGC partnership, because those are cards that are basically pack fresh. Now there could still be issues, defects, print quality, all that stuff with them, but at least it's not someone's reject pile that got sent in. It's not cards that have been manhandled a bunch. So I can see that EPAC being a pretty big component to this, and the primary drivers on EPAC are Marvel and hockey. And one thing that I didn't really think about, this is something Carlos mentioned, and this is something a bunch of people in the comments mentioned about the CSG CGC partnership with ComC, is this really helps people that are overseas, because they don't have to deal with the shipping aspects now of moving cards back and forth across the borders when submitting stuff to grade. They can purchase, cards off of EPAC or off of ComC rather through EPAC, and then submit them to grade that way. Like if you're a hockey or Marvel collector, that's a pretty big deal, because grading internationally can be a little bit of a headache based off all the stories that I've heard from people. Beckett settled into their new pricing. It kind of is what it is. They are still having, at least, once again, that's why I'm kind of curious on turnaround times. I've heard very mixed reports on Beckett turnaround times. I hear some people's stuff is flying through the system, and some people's stuff is taking forever. I've also heard order check-in is a little bit slow. So feel free to share any of that information in the comments down below. Their January move was getting rid of the white paper for the silver labels for anything 8 and lower, which was a nice change, but we're still waiting for bigger changes from a security perspective from them. PSA, they seem to be happy sitting where they are and just kind of taking the temperature of the room. I think they are still judging on how much the demand is at $19 bulk for Ultra Modern and how much business that drives to them. And then they'll continue to kind of poke around the edges with these various specials, kind of depending on what they want to do. I'll be interested to see. We are creeping up on getting, I don't know the exact release date yet, probably a month or two away, but will someone do like a Prism basketball special where it's, hey, Prism NBA releases this month, send us your stuff for $12 a card, $15 a card. Does SGC do something like they did with Bowman? Does Beckett do something? Does CSG do something? Targeted specifically at a certain set, get those fast turnaround times, and get those cards to market. I don't know. Maybe we'd see something like that. Maybe we won't. But I think that's the kind of stuff these companies are looking at right now from pricing perspectives. I would really like to see $15 Ultra Modern come back. I really do feel like that's the sweet spot for a lot of stuff. I know I am slowly building up a grading pile of not like super time sensitive stuff that I kind of really want to wait out a $15 special again. I don't know that I want to send it 19. If I eventually get enough stuff, I might just bite the bullet and do it. But I don't know yet. I would really like to see $15 for grading from PSA before sending some of this stuff in. It's like right on that borderline that it's kind of weird. You wouldn't think $4 swings things that much, but $15 and $19 on grading lower end stuff can make a big difference. So those are the January numbers and some just general thoughts about the current grading space. That is all I have for you boys and girls today. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.